Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio in Chicago, Illinois, it's time for Chicago Business Radio. Brought to you by FirmSpace, your private sanctuary for productivity and growth. To learn more, go to firmspace.com. Now, here's your host.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chicago Business Radio. I'm your host, Max Cantor, and as always, today's show is sponsored by FirmSpace. Thanks to FirmSpace, because without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. And we got a good one for you today. On today's episode of Chicago Business Radio, we have an entrepreneur, communicator, coach, speaker, and author with her organization, Breaking Through Consulting and Coaching. Please welcome to the show, Clara Lucia. Welcome to the show, Clara.
Well, hello, Max. It's an honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
Excited to talk to you about everything that you're doing, so let's jump right in. Tell me a little bit about how you are helping people in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Max, I have a passion for three things. I have a passion for supporting and helping people understand the importance of self-love, purpose, and a positive mindset. And in my experience as a coach and as a consultant, the combination of those three are like the perfect ingredients for a wonderful and yummy cake. And at the end of the day, those three things are actually helping me fulfill my purpose, which is to awake humanity in the marketplace. I think as human beings, there's a lot of things that we have forgotten to go back. It's almost like going back to the basics. And that is to remind ourselves constantly that we are human beings, that we work with human beings, and that we are in community with other human beings. So through those three things, self-love, purpose, and positive mindset, I am helping people live better lives and have more successful careers because they are going back to the basics of what it is to be a human being.
Totally. And let's talk about what your role means. So you're a business and professional coach. What is this? What does that mean? And how is it different from like a counselor or a therapist or psychologist?
Great question. So I have a couple of hats that I wear on a daily basis. I started my consulting 10 years ago, and I started it more as a consultant doing brand strategies, communications, and marketing, focus on the power of purpose. And then as of 6 years ago, I started my own developmental work through a master's degree in transformational leadership and coaching out of a deeper desire, Max, of being able to support my clients even deeper and deeper. And through that experience, I'm actually on this ongoing journey of learning how to become more human, learning what self-love means to me. And going through that, I'm able and more equipped with certain tools and, knowledge that I have to actually support my clients do the same. So this is a both way situation. While I support and I, pour out all of that I have to my clients, I am also learning from them. So there's a mutuality in the process, which is a little bit different than what a consultant does or a psychologist does or a therapist. Those are different skill sets. I don't treat symptoms. I don't do prescriptions. I'm not equipped to do that. What I am equipped to is to actually offer my presence and creating a space where the person, the client, either individually or as a group, where they feel secure enough, safety enough that they can start opening up and sharing and even asking questions about who they are now and who they want to become next. So there's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of questionings back and forward. There's a lot of what I call reflective listening, because when you are with someone else that it's non-judgmental, that does not have a specific expectation of you, that is able to see you as the beautiful and imperfect human being as you are, there's a willingness and a sense of openness that happens automatically. And that person is able to start digging a little deeper inward to connect and to find those things that are important and as of value to them, and then be able to start creating a life where they are becoming their own designers. They're choosing ways of being.
So what kinds of clients are you seeing, and what are they looking for when they come to you?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question, and I would hope that I had like a yes and no answer to you, but it's a combination of clients. I have the individual person who has kind of been in the marketplace for years and years, maybe as a director or a senior director. And there's kind of like that aha moment where they stop and they start thinking about, is this really it? Is this what career looks like? Is this where I'm supposed to be? So there's some kind of like existential questions that are starting to bubble up. And those individuals are ready to dive deeper into what is next, not necessarily to get a hold of what's coming to them, but actually start choosing what is it that indeed at the end of the day is fulfilling to them. So that's a group of kind of individuals. There's also group settings where a group of staff members, are kind of like stuck or are finding difficult working with each other or aligning towards a common or a unifying objective. I come in and I do an assessment as to where they are now, and I help them, develop a vision of where they're wanting to head towards. And I identify dynamics that may not be helping them as a group to move forward. So it's very hands-on, it's very interactive, and it's really an experience where they kind of pause for a moment and they allow themselves to be without any specific expectations of productivity or anything like that. And they just reflect on who they are as individuals, as a group of individuals working together. And they finally start kind of aligning towards that vision of becoming and identifying some of the barriers that are on the way to that.
And I hear that this is your 10th anniversary. So what kinds of trends have you seen since you began?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I think, one of the big ones is, the word coaching is now so popularized and it's a buzzword. And, sadly, anybody claims to be a coach. Which actually I'm infuriated when I see that kind of advertising out there because, coaching, to be a coach, you're required to invest not only time in educating yourself and ensuring that you have the tools and the education and the background and the experience, because it's a big responsibility. You have the ability and the power to really become a very powerful, positive influence on people, especially those that are hungry to find out what's next and find more meaning and purpose. So it requires a lot of education and a lot of hours studying. I had a master's degree. I did almost 350 papers about myself, but also other people. And it takes an investment of continuous work in studying and also getting the support that you need as a coach, because we're human beings as well. So I got supervision classes. I am still in school for, getting better at the tools that I already have. I have communities of other coaches where we gather together and we go through things and support each other. So it's a practice and it's an ongoing profession of love and dedication, but also of a big responsibility.
Totally. And I think it shows your dedication not only to working on yourself, but also working with your clients in the level of work that you're putting into this. I'm sure it reflects on your clients and your relationships with your clients.
Yes, that's beautifully said, Max. I think there's a reason why my clients continue to come to me after, I've been coaching for 6 years now, and I have clients that are still with me, because coaching is also, there's seasons of coaching, right? There's a season of coaching where I can meet with my clients every other week, to gain that momentum and to see kind of like things progressing, and those kind of like barriers or behaviors that are limiting people, they start to kind of break through those. So it could be a client, that meets with me every other week. Then there's other clients that do kind of like a monthly check-in with me and a monthly session with me. And there's some other clients that come to me whenever they are preparing towards someone specific and they want to noodle through what it is and navigate through that specific circumstance. But coaching, it's like, it's almost like, running a marathon. You have different coaches for different things, and each coach has a very specific angle and, specific purpose to help you overcome that. But an athlete, either someone that runs a marathon or someone that has a different, sport, an athlete never stops having coaches. Because it is the same thing with us individuals. I mean, having someone outside of our own brains that can help us process things, is the greatest gift. We're not meant to do things alone. We're not meant to be in isolation. And it is in community and with the support of another human being. And in my case, someone that has gone through some of those things that I support my clients. It's a beautiful blessing.
Now, to take off what you just said, talking about like, you shouldn't have to struggle by yourself. You can reach out to others. I think it's a perfect segue to talk about mental health. So what can a personal coach do to help people with their mental health and kind of help them get on the right path?
Yeah, great question, Max. Good connection. So one of the things that, and again, I want to be very clear because I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a counselor either. But what I am in terms of the support that I provide in terms of mental health is having a safe space to talk about things. I'm struggling with my boss at work. He or she comes to me and is demanding and I get freeze and I don't know how to go about it and I'm paralyzed by fear. So that in itself, that circumstance, which is very real, some leaders notice that, some other leaders don't, right? We all have an effect on other people. So what I do with my clients is I provide that space where we can talk about it and name some of those dynamics and then go deeper into like what may be the case for you to be paralyzed. Who is this person reminding you of? Maybe there's something about your past that you're not even aware nowadays that we can go through and explore. So to name those dynamics, to name those feelings that are coming up instead of like shutting them down deep inside you is a way for you to start actually acknowledging them and also bring a little bit of that space where you can be with someone else to help you process. It's almost like that space where you can raise your hand and you can say, hey, I need help. At least I need someone that I can talk to without feeling judged or without feeling like, condemned to be labeled into one category.
Totally. You're creating, like you said, that safe space for them to just talk and be open and honest.
Yep. And obviously, if there's things that are above and beyond my capacity and my responsibility, I will make referrals for that person to get other supports. But in the initial stage is almost like knocking the door, opening the door and letting a little bit of light come in so that you don't feel so alone, so that you don't feel that you're just an exception to, and that you feel that you have someone that one is empathetic towards you and is offering perhaps a different view of things or is asking questions that will then help the person start gaining some inner insights that are very revealing and that could bring some sort of hope at the end of the call or at the end of the session.
Now, since COVID started, it seems that people have different attitudes about working. So can you talk about when it comes to COVID specifically, what you're seeing as a coach?
Yeah, so there's a lot of positives and there's a lot of, obstacles that COVID brought to our lives. COVID was a forced shutdown. It literally was something that happened that was so bigger than our own capacity to handle at one given point. And it forced us to stay in and to go inward. And when you stay in physically in, four walls, you have nowhere else to go but inward. So a lot of what COVID did was actually starting those questions about what am I really up for this life? What does living a purposeful life mean? Is my job what I'm here to do? Is my job what defines me as an individual? So all of those kind of like existential questions are a beautiful way for us to actually stop and think about the kind of life that we have. Max, we only have this chance of life once, at least that we know it. And I think when those type of forced circumstances appear, like, COVID did, it's actually an invitation to rethink what's possible, to rethink what about my life now do I even want to see differently? And what are some of the choices that I have moving forward? So I think COVID in a way was a blessing because a lot of people took that time to really stop and rethink their lives and their careers and who they were as individuals. And many of them began making steps towards, those possibilities. And obviously there's things that are still, people, and me included, we're still trying to noodling through, which is that ability to embrace our humanity and remember that, there's power in the power of touch, the power of being with another person in proximity, the power of our physical presence with someone else. I mean, that's irreplaceable. Technology is a beautiful thing. We're having an incredible conversation right now, thanks to technology. I'm in Colombia back at home because I'm tending to my dad who's battling cancer now. And you're in Chicago, and here we are together. So all of those things, I think, are opportunities for us to look at what is the good in this? What can I choose to actually, what's my approach to embracing the positive, although it's hard and although it's difficult? What is the positive about these, and how can I become a better person because of it?
So, Clara, the last question that I like to ask every person who comes on Chicago Business Radio, and you've kind of touched on this in your last answer, but for you, in all that you're doing as a coach, what is the most rewarding part of the job for you?
So as you asked me that question, I had goosebumps. Max, I think the most rewarding experience that I have about my job is to see the person's eyes lighting up for the first time in a long time. Is that moment of realization when the person is aware of something so powerful that can change the trajectory of that person's life. Is that aha moment where they realize, they make a connection of, that happened then, but now it's a different circumstance. And now I can take control over and I can choose how to react to things. It's that blend of hope and possibility that I see in a person's expression. It's how they, come a little closer to the camera and they kind of like stay in awe and admiration of something that they just unpacked, that it's so powerful, that has the power to change their lives. It's hard to explain in words because it's something that is very experiential. It's, the person coming afterwards and saying, you know what, I got through that difficult conversation and it went wonderful. And I feel a little bit more confidence, talking to my boss. Or is that person that says, you know what, after, going through this process, I realized that I'm ready for a career change and I'm good to go now. Is that person that is able to go back to the boss and, ask for a raise after being kind of like paralyzed by fear, to ask what that person needed at that point. And, is even now with my dad coming alongside and being with him and supporting him enough that he feels a little bit more hope to wake up and get a couple of steps to the door so that he feels a little bit better, emotionally and physically. So, I mean, it's a long answer, Max. I don't know if that captures a little bit about what it means to me to support people.
No, it totally does. And just hearing the way that you talk, it comes across that you just want to see people achieve everything that they possibly can, and you're there to help them do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said before, we get these chance at life one. And we were created as beautiful, imperfect human beings. And we have what it takes. And we, we're marvelous creation. And there's so much potential and there's so much possibilities. And it takes to know yourself. It takes to go inward to do the work, right? This doesn't happen instantaneous. It's not like taking a pill and then boom, there you are. It takes work, but in the work, there's the adventure. In the work, there's the learning. There's, the possibilities that pop here and there. And it's just a beautiful process. It is. It's a great journey.
So, Clara, if people want to learn more about breaking through consulting and coaching, or if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yes, the best way is to go straight to my website at startbreakingthrough.com. Startbreakingthrough.com. There's a contact page and they can send me an email directly, goes to me. And I'll be more than happy to facilitate some connection and some conversation as needed. I would love to do that. It would be my honor.
Well, Clara, thank you again so much for being on Chicago Business Radio today. It was great talking with you, and you're really doing great work, and we appreciate all you're doing for the community.
Thank you for the opportunity, Max, and for shining the light a little bit to the small business owners like me that are trying to fulfill a purpose and make a difference. So thank you.
It is not a problem. It is our pleasure. And thank you for listening to another episode of Chicago Business Radio. I'm your host, Max Cantor, and we'll see you next time.
This episode of Chicago Business Radio has been brought to you by FirmSpace, your private sanctuary for productivity and growth. To learn more, go to firmspace.com.